Born into the world with insatiable curiosity, we as humans have an intrinsic nature to touch items that we aren't supposed to. A wall socket placed in a seemingly unfit spot, a statue so fragile in the middle of a park, or an object with a sign that says, "Do not touch." The wonder begins the moment we realize that the more obscure the prohibition, the more thrilled we are to try them out. Oh, the irony. The moon was dazzling on the dark night of November, but was covered under thick black clouds that plunged the mountain into a deep dark hour. Just a single light shining through.
My phone is nearly dead. I don't think we should spend so much time wasting our remaining batteries. Maybe, we'll get stranded here.
Don't get too nervous, babe. I brought a power bank with me. It's just in my bag.
He fiddles through his rucksack.
It's not charged. That's just great. For now, I guess you should just hold off using your cell.
The forest was shrouded in darkness, and the thought of the frigid breeze brought faint shivers. They went further and further with the clear pearlescent beam of the moon that pierced through. It was the only light illuminating the place. As they walked through the covered greens, their footsteps were feather-light, almost unnoticeable. Silence filled the zone, and it was only occasionally broken by the crunches of leaves. The crashing and roaring of water was slightly heard. It was mystifying. Faster and faster, they picked up the pace. They feel the air turn a bit more humid as they continued to walk. Rushing out, they cleared through the trees' branches, and there they were, at a standstill.
It's amazing! I've never seen a spectacular view like this yet.
Not as much as you. Yee.
That wasn't good.
I know.
Following their exchange, the skies began to clear up. The gleaming moon appears so close that it pierces through the darkness, resembling that of a light beam. It's as if the waters beneath were glowing while the heavens smiled back at them. To add are the shimmering falls, vividly white. One by one, on its own pace, each droplet and wave now forming a different pattern.
It is indeed relaxing. Gazing up at the night sky. And you.
The girl suddenly spouted, with a voice taken aback with embarrassment. In a spur, the guy, surprised by her words, looked at her, then stared with sparkling eyes.
This will not be the last time you will be able to share this moment with me.
Casually holding her hand and kissing it. Both were deeply engaged in the moment like moths. Indeed, the gram. They couldn't miss the chance to snap photos. They shuffled closer for the view, cautioning and minding their steps.
Come on over here.
He was up first and struck a pose.
Babe, take a pic. Does it look good?
He strives to balance, almost losing his footing. The young lady, on the other hand, moved about, snapping different angles for the best shot. In her head, she uttered,
Something strange about space, and it bothers me.
The ground felt a tad softer.
Perhaps it was just in my head, and it may have been nothing to worry about.
They went on to take more shots.
Your turn.
He finished up his little modeling gig and marched back. He reached out for his phone, but as he did, the ground beneath him, however, disapproved of his modeling. In a moment, while her lover was still within her sight, she tried to warm him up, but was cut short.
Look out!
He fell in an instant.
Ah! Ah!
Almost as if he had just awakened from a deep sleep, he regains consciousness, but the sight was unfamiliar. Where could he be? The world around him felt older. There were younger, shorter trees. The sun was out there with the grasses evidently livelier than ever. It was an environment suggesting that there's just something more, something hidden from plain sight. Gone from his view were the man-made concrete constructs, but the area was familiar. He felt as if he had a connection with the ground he was walking on. He takes a deep breath. This strange air rushed to his lungs, jolting him to be fully alert. This affirms his notion that he had truly has been here before.
You there! Excuse me, could you please tell me where I am?
With no response, he pursues them. Like an arrow chasing its deer, he grabs passerby, saying,
Hello, excuse me.
Something was odd. As he reached out, his hand passes through the man, causing him to lose his footing and tumble and fall. He couldn't feel them. He was horrified, confused and desperate. He tried grabbing every object around him, yet to no avail.
What is going on here? Am I invisible? What's wrong with me?
He thought in his head. His fears and phobias all came crashing down. No one gave him a glance. No one noticed him. He turned pale, almost as if he were lifeless.
You have been met by a terrible fate, haven't you?
He turned surprised and absolutely ecstatic to see this woman in robes. He was relieved to finally have someone realize his presence. This woman, like a beacon of hope, shined light to his anxiety, hopefully giving him a solution to his dilemma.
You can see me?
She nods. She raised her hand, exposing her porcelain white skin, and gestures to him to accompany her.
Should I follow her? Maybe I should follow her for now.
He thought once more before they left the area. Sights familiar yet unknown are passing across him as he is led by the woman through the forest. Creaks and the sound of the rushing water felt familiar. The places are just at the tip of his tongue. She leads him to a hut in a nearby area. They sit down upon arrival.
Exactly who are you and what business do you have here?
A supposedly easy question proved to be difficult. He was in so much shock. As much as he tried with mumbles and short sounds, no words left his mouth. It was as if a rope was tied around his neck. After being pressed and recall memories of the past, he simply could not answer her. She does not press him farther after seeing his struggle to answer her question.
Why can't anyone see me? Why can't you see me? Who am I? Where did I come from? Who are you?
Simply speaking, you are dead.
Alarmed by the news, he reels back. He puts his finger to his temples and thinks hard. The harder he tries to remember what doomed him and led him to that moment, he would feel nauseous and heavy.
I'm an enchantress. Therefore, I have powers beyond understanding.
I see.
The news wasn't as shocking to him compared to the previous statement. Just as he was trying to process the situation, a familiar sound can be heard. His head darts into the direction of the sound. It's coming from the west end of the hut. He stood up, crunching his eyebrows. He felt compelled to follow that noise. He stalks following the sound, along with the enchantress accompanying him. As he soon realizes that he can face through the trees and foliage, he arrives quickly to his destination.
Where could this be coming from?
He stopped in sight of the sound.
This place is...
Before he could finish his thought, The enchantress, with a smug of a smile, interrupts him.
Inago Falls. It's good that you remember. Tell me, have you heard how the falls came to be?
Well, yeah. It was an enchantress and a hideous girl, wasn't it?
That part of the story was about a girl who was cursed with ugliness by an enchantress and was turned into something beautiful by that same enchantress out of pity. As he was retelling the story in his mind, a light bulb went off in his head. He realized.
Wait, what could it be? I don't think. Unless...
His face could show his sudden realization. He turns his head and his eyes darts and is enchanted by the enchantress' eyes.
So you finally realized it. Her parents were plainly selfish and good for nothing. That's what royalty does to you. So I cursed their child, and look where she is now, right in front of us, gracing us with her beautiful presence. However, her beauty is running out, boy. Ha 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 ha.
What do you mean by that?
The magic does not last forever. So every few years or so, when the moon is at its peak brightness, we take a sacrifice.
As he heard those other words, he felt like his body was crushed under an unimaginable weight. His stomach sunk to his body's deepest crevice.
My body! What did she do?
She chooses only the most vain among those who come to visit her, to feed her pursuit of beauty. Not by circumstance, no, but by her will to take you as her sacrifice. You are drawn here as a result.
As she stopped in the nick of time, daylight transitioned into midnight. The surroundings changed as well. The small trees grew large again. The greenery around him became denser, like a piece of paper being burned. A spell was fading away. His surroundings, which were engulfed by an illusion made by the enchantress, were returning to its original state. He then sees a young woman behind them who was barely trying to stand. The moment he set his eyes on her, memories came flooding back. He starts shedding tears as soon as he realized she was his lover, his everything. He runs to her to clothe her in his embrace, but no, he couldn't feel her warmth again. He was but a soul, a lost and despair-filled soul. He wanted to tell her once more that he loved her and that he'd never want to lose her, that he was the one lost after all.
No! Please, babe!
Dream on, but you can't go back now. It's time for you to go.
All of a sudden, an invisible force starts pulling him in. He claws the ground, clinging onto his last moments. It grabs him by each extremity, his legs first, and then his whole trunk, until he couldn't counter the force with all of his resistance. It drags him down the deep, unexplored abyss of the falls.
May your sacrifice not be in vain.
The moon hid behind the clouds once more. The young girl was there, shocked, pale, and at a complete loss for words. She checked his pulse and vital signs, just any signs of life. In her head, she wanted to scream.
No! No! Why? Please! Somebody help me! Anyone, please! Please!
She lifelessly stood there with the realization that her beloved would never come back. What was right in front of her was now gone from this mortal world. She held in her hand her phone frozen on the last memory of her loved one.
Babe, take the pic.
She took a reluctant glance at the picture and her eyes began welling up. Out of the blue, in the midst of that weeping, a hand grasped her ankle. She swore that she saw it. Jitteringly, she got up and nearly thought she was insane while intensely staring at the falls. The waters were like crystals, glistening more than ever that night. Chilling yet warm, the wind by the falls hushed.
I love you.